And welcome to this episode of the Capitalized Life and Retirement Show. I'm your host, Matthew Johnson, president and owner of Johnson Wealth and Income Management, a retirement income source located in Clear Lake and Humboldt, Iowa, serving clients in northern Iowa and southern Minnesota. Well, how are you today? I hope you're doing well, taking a little bit of time for yourself. And, if you're brand new to the program, I just want to say a very warm welcome. If you've been kind of warming up to this idea of trying to get clearer navigational skills on what it's going to take to retire and how to retire properly so that you have less stress and you have more fun. Well, I want to say that this could be the right program for you. We work very diligently to bring down to earth solutions that are practical, that are plausible, things that any person can do, and really speak to so many of the threats and the risks that every retiree face every single day by showing you practical solutions to those things. Now, I don't know about you, but I'd like to begin today's program with just a question. Are you as sick and tired as I am of the word tariff? So here's what we're going to do on today's program. We're going to talk about tariffs. Sound like a plan, doesn't it? The reality, though, is though we have heard so much about tariffs, so we've been through Liberation Day, and we've had a lot of tariff development. We've seen a lot of things develop. We've seen a lot more clarity as these things have come down the pike. Unfortunately, President Trump is only thinking about implementing even more tariffs. And the tariff that we're going to be discussing, something that is so vital that you understand, is going to be the sectoral tariff. Now, if the sectoral tariff is something that you're not familiar with, well, I encourage you stick around because this is something that you need to be aware of. Now, if you haven't done it, I encourage you go to our website, johnsonwim as in wealthincomemanagement.com. And on our website, I encourage you, peruse around. There is the opportunity to be able to post questions to me. And if you're lucky or maybe unlucky, I'm not really sure, I might even use your question on the radio show. You can go back and watch YouTube videos that we post every single week. You can go back and listen to pre-recorded radio shows from past weeks and months and probably even years. You can avail yourself to all of the various different white papers that talk about so many vital topics, things like how to create more income, how to pay less tax on Social Security, when's the ideal time to draw Social Security, how to know that you have the right retirement income plan, how you have the right advisor, fiduciary, all the things that are going to be so instrumental and important to you as an up-and-coming retiree, or if you are in the distribution stage of your life, the things that can negatively and so quickly affect you when you're in the distribution stage of life. So what is this thing with tariffs? Well, number one, we know the broad scope of tariffs. We know that, it's an import-export thing. They import to us. We're going to charge them money for even the luxury of being able to sell something to us, right? And I'm not going to argue the tariff because, quite honestly, I think we were being taken advantage of. There was a lot of I would say inequality when it comes to the trade import-export. However, a sectoral tariff, which is something that's going to be stacked on top of, is something that you need to be aware of. And a sectoral tariff is very specific. So right now, we're looking at potential 50% tariffs on steel imports, on aluminum imports, and now they have expanded that to what they call the derivative products of the steel and the aluminum. And that's going to be affecting the cost of your washing machine, the cost of your dryer, the cost of your dishwasher, the cost of your refrigerator. Those are all end products that are made with the aluminum and with the steel. And so it's going to have an impact on the cost of living. We know this. Maybe not now, because maybe you don't need the dishwasher. Maybe you're going to wait, a few more years before the thing finally clanks out, and then you're going to get a new one. But it will have an impact, sure as the world. Now, this is also obviously affecting imports of cars and car parts. This is something where automobiles in general that are being imported, their sectoral tariff is 25%. So just think about that. Think about a car that's $80,000, and now there's going to be an extra $20,000 that is going to be added on top of that. It just went from 20 to now 100. Now, I know you're not a rocket scientist, but I want to ask this question. Where do you think that that's going to get paid from? Is it going to be the corporation? Now, this is a very important question. I don't want to minimize this. Is it going to get paid by the corporation? Is the corporation just going to just naturally absorb the extra cost? Or is it going to get passed on to you and I? This is the reason why it's important, because the sectoral tariff is stacked on top of. Number 3, this is a big one. This is going to be semiconductors and pharmaceuticals. And the reason that this is so important, and this is kind of fascinating, is it's kind of being peeled back as the onion, one layer at a time, is when you're discussing things like semiconductors, you're discussing national security. We have brilliant engineers in this country, brilliant software companies in this country. And if they are taking their intellectual property, their physical software developments, and they're shipping chips and semiconductors to other countries, which have a history of ripping us off. They have a history of copycatting all of the software and the various advances in technology. This is a national security risk. If they don't have the technology, we can always beat them. Or at least that's the philosophy. This is the reason why President Trump is seeking to make it more painful for companies that are exporting to countries like China. Because if Microsoft wants to take some of their best technology and ship that off to China as a buyer, as a customer, he wants 15% of that cut. It's kind of an interesting thing. But ultimately, what is that going to do for your cost of living? And we haven't even begun to touch the tip of the iceberg. Copper, agricultural products, timber, critical minerals. All of these things are going to be affected. Now, I said it before, but I'm going to ask you to consider it again. Corporations only have 2 options. And you see, option 1 is to just naturally absorb it. Option 2 is to pass it on. But both of those have negative implication on the stock price. This is the reason why it's so important that we pay attention to this. You could be affected in so many ways. If you're investing very heavily in technology, for instance, these sectoral tariffs, once they begin to become implemented, could very well take down the profitability of the companies that you're investing in. That's going to maybe have an impact on the value of your holdings, the value of what you're investing in within your own investment portfolio. When you think about a corporation making a decision, do we just simply eat it? Well, if they eat the cost, that's going to have an impact on their bottom line, on their profitability. What do you think that that's going to do to stock price? If they say, no, we're going to pass it on, well, guess what? That means that it's going to increase the cost of their good. That means that there's likely to be less interest in the product. There's going to be fewer buyers of the product. And what is that ultimately going to lead to? Less profit. So whether it's earnings per share, or no matter what it is, really, it's kind of damned if you do and damned if you don't. And either way, it's having an impact on stock prices. And if you're investing in index funds, mutual funds, ETF funds, individual stocks, these are serious considerations for you. So when it comes to tariffs, are they really necessary? I believe that they are. Are tariffs good in some respects? Absolutely. But are they going to have an impact on your personal retirement? And have you considered the damage that they could do? Are you doing things right now? Are you implementing things right now to mitigate the risks that these sectoral tariffs could have in the havoc that they could wreak on your portfolio? The bottom line is that tariffs are going to cost you more. If it's not now, it's probably going to be later. But whether it's now, whether it's later, here's the thing. There's only two ways to get more income. I suppose three. The third way is to go back to work. But if you're retired, you don't want to do that. You don't want to unretire. No one wants to unretire. That's silly. So here's conventional thinking A. Conventional thinking A, to get more income, is you either A, take on more risk and you cross your fingers and toes and you hope that the value of what you're investing in goes up enough that you can sell the shares, get the capital gains to get the income that you need. Or option B, a more sane, more logical, safer way, is to actually invest for income. You see, when you think about investing for growth, and I'm all for growth. I want growth. I want my clients to have growth, meaning appreciation. But what is growth? Well, here's the part that no one tells you. Growth equals income plus capital appreciation. You see, that part is super important because do we always get capital appreciation? And the answer is no. Sometimes we get shrinkage. Sometimes we get lost. Sometimes we see things going backwards instead of going forwards. So what if you think about growth in this respect? Growth, if your incentive, if your goal is growth, capital appreciation, it forces you to have two things and more of one and less of another. It forces you to have more risk or take more risk, and it forces you too to have less income. Because you see, the things that the stocks, the companies that we're going to be investing in for appreciation, those stocks oftentimes don't pay hardly anything for income. Think about Apple stock. It pays 0.4. You see, when you think about growth, you have to ask yourself, are you willing to accept more risk? Are you willing to accept less income? Now let's go back to that definition. Growth equals income plus capital appreciation. What if, just hypothetically now, what if you could reduce your risk of loss? What if you could exponentially increase the amount of income that your principal produced every single month? You could take it from 2% or less and 3x that. What if you could do that? And now you get the income that you need every single month. And that income is simply a derivative of how you're investing your principal. And that means that your principal is left intact. And that means that if you leave your principal intact, you don't sell any shares, then the stock that you're investing in can over the time grow and compound like it's supposed to. It can appreciate the way it's supposed to. I don't suppose you would be interested in something like that, would you? The answer is yes. Then, is it something you need to pursue? You see, as an advisor, a lot of advisors do a lot of the same things. But I think when you boil it all down, the reason that people select certain advisors is because of one very important thing, and that's trust. Trust that their advisor will do the right thing for them. Trust that their advisor is not going to follow the herd, recklessly invest their money, recklessly lose it, but focus on the preservation of the principle that they've worked so hard for. Focus on maximizing the output of income so that you can take more trips and you can do more fun things before you get to that stage of life in which you can't do those things. So you see, whether it's these tariffs, sectoral tariffs, or it's something down the road, some outside force that forces volatility and forces everyone to once again question what they're doing and how they're doing it. And is it going to be enough? I encourage you, what do you want out of your money? What do you want that money to do? What was the whole intention and the purpose of saving your money to begin with? Was it so that you could just watch it, like watching paint dry? Or was it so you can enjoy it? You can do things with it, and you could grow it at the same time. I'm Matthew Johnson. Thank you so much for watching. And remember, it's up to you to make today a great day.